never get tired of hearing that theme song. As always, a big thank you to Nightlife for contributing that song to the podcast and also my radio show. Welcome back to the F Money Show podcast. I am your host, Fran Chismar. I'm really excited about today. It's a really big show today. It's my shot at redemption. It's my big shot at redemption, so I'll try not to ruin it this time. My co-host today, actually filling in, that my co-host today was supposed to be our fearless leader, Ryan Smith from I-99, and he had something come up at the last minute. So, Anthony Lemma, thank you for...
Hello. I'm glad to be here. I'll give myself a clap.
Welcome. Thank you for being a part of this today. I really appreciate it. So
happy to be here.
So Anthony and I have met through a group of music friends that I've talked about on the podcast before, but I think was at a free winter show a couple years ago. Was probably the first time we met.
I think first time we met, I wasn't really aware of you, but I've met you through Jesse, actually.
Okay.
A Daddy Lap show at the, Underground Arts.
Underground Arts, that's right. Actually, and our guest played that show too. That was a pretty epic show, actually.
That was a lot of fun.
But Anthony and I have this network of friends that have all met through a local radio station and through concerts, and we were probably friends on Twitter way before we even met when we're talking. So that's kind of the way it goes. So thank you for joining us. And you've actually had your own college radio show, haven't you?
Yes, WVUD in Newark, Delaware, through the University of Delaware. Did it for about 2 years or so, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to play music that I loved, music that I wanted people to hear. I'll do B-sides, I'll do mainstream stuff. I'll just play whatever the hell I wanted.
Which is awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
It's nice having that leeway to kind of play. That's what I like about DJing for I-99 is even though it's alternative, I can pretty much play whatever I want. And I do, to a point, because you can't play whatever you want and then have people not care and not tune in.
Absolutely.
But so what was your favorite thing to play?
I mean, I threw in a lot of Green Day. I'm a huge Green Day fan. I threw in ska music. I threw in 80s metal. I really didn't have a favorite. I think I'll have to go back through my playlists. I have my playlists on my computer still, and just a lot of 90s rock too.
I was gonna say I don't think I've ever asked you this. What's your favorite genre of music or era in music?
I think it's just like as a whole, just like rock and roll as a whole, because my playlist will go from Zeppelin to Real Big Fish, or I'll throw in, now I'm blanking, but yeah, just like Zeppelin to Real Big Fish to Save Ferris. Then I'll do a lot of the 90s bands we love, like the Peppers and Weezer.
For your age, you consistently surprise me with your 90s music.
I don't know what it is.
Knowledge.
Well, my dad was a big classic rock fan. I grew up in the backseat. He had the local classic rock station on all the time, and so I have I have a lot of respect, and I love classic rock a lot. So I just said the Zeppelin, the Who, the Stones, the big ones, the Beatles.
I have a feeling our guest has a big respect for classic rock too. So
Absolutely.
I think it's about time. So the last time we had this guest on the podcast, it was a different podcast, and I've mentioned before it was the last. It killed the podcast, and it wasn't them; it was me.
Don't even bring it up. Don't even say
it. Was yeah. So please welcome Kevin and Michael from Andorra.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for
in studio clapping.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for coming back. Like seriously, like the last one, Janet and I were talking that when you guys just stopped talking, we realized it was bad, but we kind of had to like push
Michael,
through.
How did you frame that? We walked out the door and you said it was equivalent to a Michael Scott breakdown.
It kind of felt like an Office episode. So if we stop talking at some point, then you'll know what's going on.
You know it's bad.
Messed
like,
up again.
But we realized it, and we're like, well, we're in the middle of it, so we kind of have to just. This was the plan.
Just write it out.
And then after you guys left, I was like, wow. It's we didn't even know Janet pretty much retired from the podcast at that point because I don't know that I want to do this anymore. So I was like, yeah, maybe I need to rework this. Yeah. Like put it to bed for a little bit and rethink it.
Well, it's a great platform for local people to come on and talk about their music. So I'm glad you did bring it back.
It is, and I think that's been our focus. Is every episode we're trying to keep it local. I feel very spoiled because I feel the music scene in Philadelphia is phenomenal right now, and whatever we can do to bring those people to light outside of Philadelphia, is fantastic.
Right.
So that's our whole purpose right now is to do that. So I'm waiting for one of you guys to finally like hit the big time. hit the big time.
We'll
so
let you know.
So I know I think Tiny Human mentioned to me they're about to tour. They're getting ready to hit the road. So I thought that was exciting. You know, and Civil has toured and Jamie's gone places. I think Billy and Dom were even saying they were trying to get some gigs up in Boston. So
Cool.
So that would be awesome. So since the last podcast, we did the podcast. It was probably well over a year ago, and it was shortly after your last album. So since that, you've just recently released new music. So you have a new album,
Right.
So, and the name of that album?
We released a new album in October called Family Tree.
Awesome. And what I like about it, I don't know if you heard any of the radio show last week, but my takeaway from it was, I think a lot of people think they know who Andorra is. And I think your influences really showed on this one, and the genres to me were all over the place. And it was, I kind of felt, I didn't take away, oh, it's all over the place. I took away, it's, hey, this is who we fucking are. We're telling you right now, this is who we are, and we're showing you what we do, and this is it, which I loved. And actually, the day it came out, I just happened to see Dr. Dave, and we talked about it, and he was like, I fucking love this album.
Oh, really?
Like, cool. he's like, I've been listening to it a lot.
Nice.
So
And Dave's a big supporter of like all the local music scene. I feel like, I mean, he's much older than a lot of us, and I think that's great that people that are parents or grandfathers' age, someone like him.
Yeah.
I think it's great that like, all the music in general, the Philly music scene in general, you guys reach out to everybody.
yeah, I think Dave is a good barometer too, because he's been around for a while, and he goes. Does he really miss many of your shows at all?
He's usually at most of them, and I'm happy to hear that he enjoyed the album, because he's also like, he doesn't hold back.
He'll tell you if he doesn't like it.
Yeah, right. So that's good to hear. I've heard other things from him too, but I'm glad the general takeaway was positive. So.
Yeah, he was really. We were sitting with a DJ from the local radio station, and she was like, "Oh, I think I need to listen to this on the way home." She goes, "This will be my listening."
Nice.
And we're like, "Yeah, it should be. You should really. This is important, important stuff." So that was my takeaway. Was that your intention, or did it just? Because to me, your writing style's changed since the last album.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you actually made that point, because that was something we had kind of gone in thinking about, was making an album that's really varied across the board. And I know we had a point where we were in the writing session or recording session where it was like, hey, this song's really weird, but it's still us at the end of the day. So I'm glad it comes across as coherent, but really varied.
It did come across as coherent to me. And it's, I kind of got a little bit of that from What You Wanted, What You Got, but that was also 2 EPs also, because I kind of felt like the tail end of that album, you got a different vibe, but I'm like, well, it's 2 EPs, and that could be it. And,
Right.
And it was unmistakably Andorra, but different styles. And I kind of feel that this was the next step, the progression of that with this album.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a couple other things that kind of helped that. This record was the first album that we've ever took on producing and engineering ourselves.
I didn't know
so that definitely played a role in it. Michael kind of took on those responsibilities.
It's also the first album we really wrote together all the way through.
Was it a group effort for writing?
With What You Wanted, What You Got, about half the album was written before Dante and I were even in the band.
Okay.
So it was kind of like picking up where Kevin and Jordan had started. But with this one, we all started clean from the beginning. So Dante and I had a lot more of a role in the songwriting process, which kind of changed the group dynamic too, which was a lot of fun because it was much more collaborative than we're used to.
Yeah.
And you even sing a song on this album.
I do. They let me have a microphone.
We let them sing it.
Awesome. Awesome. Was that nerve-wracking, exciting?
It was fun.
Was that the plan from the get-go, or was it something where your voice just kind of fit and they're like...
It's a song that I wrote and brought to the band.
Okay.
Because usually Kevin writes the song first and then we build on it from there, but it's a song that I had started and brought to the group, and it seemed to fit our sound well enough that it could work for the record.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's something we're thinking about doing moving forward, just different voice on the Andorra record, and I think for me, I think of my favorite bands, and like Queens of the Stone Age had 3 singers at one point. The Beatles had 4 singers at one point. So like it's trying to kind of build on that, to not, start slow, but then kind of, build more on that.
And it's still cohesive, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that song. So it was unmistakable. I could pick it out, and I was like, oh wow.
Just as long as you don't like his songs more than my songs.
But it could be like, you mentioned the Beatles, where people preferred Paul songs, people preferred John songs. If that opens up your market to more people who have different interests, why not?
Yeah, and it was like a, not even competition, but it was kind of like, oh, I need to kind of pick up the pace with the songs that I'm writing, because Michael will just write another song and throw it in the mix. So not that that would be a bad thing, but it really just kind of helped move things on in a nice progression.
And I guess that could happen even as you progress from there. It's as you bring more songs to the table, or you may even have something of yours that fit, that maybe that fits your vocals a little bit better than mine. Or,
yeah, absolutely.
I would like to see you two start writing for each other. I'd like to see you write a song for Michael, see how that goes.
Or like an officially recorded duet with the both of us.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day.
What's the writing process like? Did you enjoy writing in high school and throughout college? Where did you actually learn how to write a song? Because I guess for most average college students and average high school students, it's easy to bang out a five-page essay about a topic that you love. Like, where did that love come from for writing music?
So I think for both of us, we started writing songs probably a little over 10 years ago now, when we were in grade school. And it's just kind of a thing that we do. I find the harder that I think about it, the harder it is to write a song. Like, the best ones come to me a bit subconsciously.
Okay.
As far as the group writing process goes, we'll start with the bones of a song, one of us will, and then we'll bring it to the group and say, here's the song we're working on. Mm-hmm. And then in a group rehearsal, we take the song, take it apart, figure out new sections, new transitions, ways that we can spice up the chord progression, and kind of build on it from there.
Usually Michael just like rips it apart.
Oh my god! Yeah, so
stuffs it back and then rips it apart again. And
with this album especially, when we were doing our writing sessions, I would just get really fired up, and my mind would be running at a mile a minute, and I'd come up with all these crazy ideas, where I'd be like, guys, wait, I have an idea. Everyone would roll their eyes, and I'd be like, all right, give me a minute and I'll explain it.
And I had to kind of take like myself out of like the song at sometimes and think like, this is actually for the better of the band and the better of the song, rather than just like keep my emotions intact with whatever I'm writing. And like we clashed a lot, and that was just a part of this process. And I look back now and think like, well, I'm glad that all of that happened, because now we have a really awesome record that we're super proud of, that people seem to like. So I'm happy that all of those those roadmaps kind of got us there. And
that's important, because I really feel like sometimes those bonding moments, I was just reading an article that's sports related about the Sixers, and they were saying, sometimes those bonding moments in the middle of the night better prepare you for that hard conversation you have to have with a member or yourself, with what's best for everyone. So it sounds like that's what you're able to do. Like, you're able to, like, I'm sure it's not always easy. Did it change in the studio too? Like, did some of the songs as you were recording them, like, take on their own life there too, or did that more happen in the songwriting process?
So I think with the last album, a lot of things started to get worked out as we were recording it, and then when we were writing this batch of songs, we were going in with that detailed oriented approach from the beginning.
Okay.
So a lot of the major overhauls and stuff were done while we were writing the song, and then by the time it came to record it, we kind of knew what we wanted to do with it already. I think there were maybe 1 or 2 songs where we were like, we'll kind of figure it out when we record it, and it went okay from there, and wasn't a huge issue.
Did everything make the album? Were there songs that didn't make the cut that you held back on, said they're not ready, or were not?
No, we used everything.
Okay.
So when we started writing the album, before we knew how we were going to record or anything, we said we were going to use 8 songs. 8 songs only. And then
we added 1 more.
Yeah. we had 1 more, and it was like, all right, well, we can't cut any of these. So.
Yeah.
But there were songs that we had debated cutting, but instead of cutting it, we just sat down, took it apart again, reworked it until we were all happy with it.
Awesome. Yeah, Anthony, I know you had a lot more insight on the album. You were spending a little bit more time listening to it.
Listened to it last night. It's a lot of different art styles. Track 4, names escaping me, but there's more of a funkiness 70s groove to it.
Everything is moving.
Everything is moving.
Yeah. I like that. A few of the songs you had a decision to add horns and strings to it in the background. Were there actual horns and strings, or was that done through computer magic?
So there was one song where we used this sample of strings and horns as like an ambient effect,
right?
Which was actually from another project I worked on where we recorded actual strings and horns.
Cool.
So it was like, why not use the 30-piece orchestra in the background of a song if we have it?
And just in music in general, like out of all the big bands that we all listen to, like for some reason I'm a fan of the orchestral and like just adding horns in the background. For some reason, it adds that certain ambience, it adds a certain, would nuance be a right word?
Yeah, I'm a fan of horns, and it was funny because one of the things Janet and I always clashed on were she hated any song with horns. Yeah. And that was my mission, was to find a song with horns that she actually liked.
Yeah. So no ska music?
No.
Ska music sucks.
No.
But the track 4, the funky one, and that kind of actually...
It's really funny that you guys call it the funky one, because we do too.
Yeah,
we really don't know by name.
It kind of reminded me of like pigeons playing ping pong, like that type of. And I didn't know if that like was something that Dante like brought away, like being on the road with them, or just something that you guys had that you shared a love for.
There was a point while we were working on that song, because we were kind of going for a Let's Dance vibe from David Bowie.
Okay.
And Dante wasn't sure what to play on a part. And I think someone said, well, what would pigeons play? And then kind of went from there.
All right.
Which I don't know if that's what pigeons would play at all, but just kind of getting into a different mindset than just power chords on guitar.
Right. That track stood out to me. Yeah. That track really, to me, that one stood out, but then I kept going back to Made of Gold. Like that was a song that there was something about that spoke to me that I listened to that when I played that one on my show this past week. Like, is there a favorite that you have off the album? Is there one that was like your child going in?
For me, this is going to sound cheesy, but like all these songs are kind of my children because I had to spend so much time mixing them and working on them.
No, not at all. I mean, it's what you've been working on for how long now? I completely get that.
I'm a big fan of Made of Gold too. I was really happy with the way that one turned out. And it's very different for us too. I know one of the things we said going into this album was we wanted to put an acoustic guitar on a song that's not entirely acoustic. And so we made that work with a kind of different configuration.
And to me, that had a real big Neil Young vibe.
Oh, totally.
That's where I was. Yeah. I could totally.
I got that too. More Neil Young, which I think is pretty good. Which I think is great.
Yeah. Which I love, and I think that's not where most music is headed these days. Like, and I feel, and I we'll go back to it because that I want to talk about your influences and some of the things that you guys have done in the last year since the last podcast. But I think the music direction on, let's say, radio, mainstay radio, is really changing. And I don't know that I'm necessarily anyone's desired demographic anymore. Yeah. At least for popular music. So it's interesting for your age, the direction you're going, because I think that's kind of against the mainstream, but it really talks to me. It really speaks to me.
Yeah. What I will say is that, Michael and I both grew up on a lot of classic rock, much like Anthony, and I think we're just students of music. We've always had open ears, and we've always just listened. And if we're listening to like Harvest Moon by Neil Young, clearly that is in our DNA, and we can go and do that. And it wasn't supposed to be like a ballsy thing, like, oh, look what else we can do. It was just kind of like, we're fans of this, we know what this is about, and we don't want Andorra to be like a one-trick pony kind of thing. It's like, this is what we also have to offer. So
well, the songs of that generation, I feel, and there's always exceptions, but it wasn't done on a laptop. Right. You had to be a student of music. You had to know your instrument to stand out like Neil Young or Bob Dylan. Like, you weren't faking it. You weren't making it in your bedroom. You actually had to craft it a little bit. Not saying that making a song on a computer isn't craft, but it was a little bit different, and I kind of get that vibe from your new album.
Cool. Yeah, I retweeted this thing today, and it was like, I don't know who said it, but it was people who play live music that will never go out of style. Like, and that's just what we like to do. We like to play rock and roll in any shape or form. So like, that will never not be cool. So we're going to continue doing it until whatever. It's just it's what we do. So it's not like we'll stop doing it.
And I want to talk more about that later. I know you had a few more questions, Anthony, about the new album. What was the song you wanted to ask?
The Idaho song, isn't that based off of Dante? Is that the one based off of Dante?
Absolutely.
Because he was left in, what was the name of the town?
Sandpoint, Idaho.
And that's how the joke, where's Dante, which a lot of us like to yell.
Not actually. It's funny that they kind of intersect with each other, but Dante got this really cool job. So Dante and I met at University of the Arts, where we studied this music industry program, and we're both really grateful that we have cool jobs actually working in like the music field, and the job that he has, it started out with him doing merch for Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. He sold all the merch. He was counting money at the end of the night, and then he soon graduated to like monitor. So he's one of the sound techs there.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, essentially one night when he was with the band, he just got wasted, and so there's a tour bus involved, and he was so drunk that he actually made it onto the tour bus at one point, and then for whatever reason in the middle of the night got off the tour bus and went back into the venue that they just played, and like remembered the passcode to the green room for some, I don't know how.
Oh my goodness.
It was just, drunk power, I suppose. And then crashed on the couch in the green room. And then the tour bus took off without him, and he was left in the green room in this, of all places, like Idaho is just, there's nothing there, right?
That's
like
very far west.
Yeah, and I think they
even thinking about them playing there is
I don't know what that market
wacky.
has to offer.
And for that type of music, even, it's like, I don't picture Idaho as a big like funk.
No, I don't know. But yeah, they soon took off to I think Seattle, Washington, and he was left behind, and he was just like, what the fuck? Maybe they messed up. Maybe this isn't all on me. But he was left behind with no shoes and
poor Dante,
no money. So
he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay. He's alive.
Don't feel bad for him.
We should still feel bad for him.
But meanwhile, like he was on the road away from us, and I was just kind of like missing him, and we were missing playing shows because Andorra's not the type of band to like get a sub.
Yeah.
We're very much like the four members of this band. Kind of makes us who we are. Yeah. So we were just like not playing, kind of sitting around, getting fat, and like I miss Dante, so I was just like tweet it, and then we started hashtagging "Where's Dante?" because he was all over the world. And then like it was just funny that kind of met with like this crazy story of him actually getting behind. So it was like, where is Dante? Where is he actually?
The Where's Dante hashtags kind of died down a little bit. I think we need to bring it back.
Well, we know where he is now. He's safe and sound.
But it's still fun. Now I'm going to embarrass my oldest son just a little bit. So like, it's funny that how often being left behind does. So my son plays lacrosse in college, and he really. He wasn't playing the position he really wanted to play, and really hadn't had an opportunity. And right before their last scrimmage game for fall, he had a great practice. So they get on they take 3 vans to a game. So they take the vans to the game. They're in the huddle before the game. The defensive coach goes, "Darian, you showed a lot over the last practice. You're getting your start today. Darian, Darian missed the bus. Darian overslept.
Oh, no.
Right.
No one even knew because they all assumed he was in another. There were 3 vans. They're like, oh, he could have been in another van. Like, they didn't even know. And then the head coach, they didn't even tell the head coach, and he tried to put him in later, and they're running up and down the sideline looking for him. You know, and no one knew where he was at, and he woke up and was like, oh my God, where no one came and got me. Like, they left without me. So it was like,
Sort of like Home Alone.
yeah, it was. He was freaking out because he had to wait for everyone to get back to have the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Like, I guess, like, there's that Always Sunny episode where, like, the episode's called "The Gang Misses the Boat," and they literally miss the boat, but then they think about all the things that they could have been, and like, it's the same thing. It happens.
It makes for great stories. So one of the questions I had for you, now that you guys are older, and because you've been a band for a while, and now that you're older and you're done college and your lives have started, and you do somewhat work in the industry, is it harder to get together as a band and do this? Do you find that being Andorra is a little more difficult now than, say, it was like 3 years ago?
You've noticed?
Yeah, I'm just
No, absolutely. Yeah,
Totally.
It's Michael's a full-time teacher. I have 4 different jobs related to, like, music industry things. Dante's on the road. Jordan's not.
He's
He
doing whatever Jordan does.
He doesn't pursue music full time, so he's an IT guy. But yeah, we're a little scattered, but we make it work, and I think it has limited our gigging, but it helps in the long run because if we're limited to 1 show a month, then we'll bring people, we'll pack the house because people tend to miss us when we're not gigging as often. So
you make it count when you have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
I remember, I think it was my sophomore year of college, we were playing, it was always April. We played like 4 gigs in a month. And I can't imagine doing that now, where we play like a show every month and a half or so. But like he's saying, it makes that 1 show more meaningful and our opportunity to do it well.
And if you do those 4 shows in that 1 month, you kind of like oversaturate yourself. So people, and Jamie from Jamie and the Guarded Heart says it the best, like, if you give people more than 1 option, they're not going to go to either of those. So like, if you have 2 shows in the same month, people will just be like, I'm going to go to neither of them. So, and
there's a lot of options, and actually the next podcast our guest is going to be Bruce McKnight from Nightlife, and when they did the residency at the Grape Room, where it was every Thursday for a month, that had to have been tough. But like, maybe the first show some people miss, and it's like, I'll catch the next one. But like, by the end of that month, it's got to be difficult to keep drawing that same crowd, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And it's I thought that was interesting. I didn't know. I'm curious if he would do that again if given the.
He would absolutely do it again. They work differently than we do. Their goal is to just get out and play to literally either nobody or in front of at least 1 person, so they can go home and be like, I know Nightlife now. So,
but I kind of feel too with them, it's you never know who's going to be in the band that night either. Like, that lineup can change a little bit. Who could be on vocals? Who could be,
Yeah. So for the past year, it's been the trio of Bruce, Rich, and Anthony.
Okay.
And to kind of cope with, not having a band around as often, sometimes I join Nightlife and sit in with them. And when we do that, we call it Kev Life. And we just kind of, for me, playing live is a necessity. I need to do it more than once a month. So while Andorra is certainly its own thing, Michael and I have both started other projects that kind of keep us busy so we can keep gigging.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I guess I'll approach that now. So you've done many different kinds of gigs over the last year in between Andorra. Do you guys call yourself the Refugees? Is that one of the names? Or is it?
It was.
It wasn't there? Okay.
Yeah, so that started with we were contracted to do this like outdoor, national park kind of thing and play, songs as Andorra, but Dante was away and then Jordan was away, but the money was too good to pass up. So we were like, let's throw something else together with some of our friends. And we called it the Refugees because we were a all Tom Petty cover band that night,
which is awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of evolved into just a cover band that we do on the side.
Which and again, that's the choice of and Tom Petty. The more people I talk to recently, that name comes up more and more as and understandably so.
Yeah.
As a influence, but that speaks to a lot of different generations as well.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of the younger generation gets that when you're doing that? You think that's speaking more to someone my age than someone your age?
No, because I think there's something that can be respected about older music. It's older, but doesn't mean it has to be listened to, or doesn't have to be listened to by older people.
Yeah.
And everybody loves Tom Petty, so
everybody does love.
Tom Petty does have some pretty timeless songs, and I've played his stuff in a bunch of different types of groups, and it's still a lot of fun. No matter, I've played it with a bluegrass band, and it still works really well. It's still just great songwriting.
And I think with Tom Petty, over his career, there's a lot of different directions he went to. You got rock, you got singer-songwriter, you got acoustic, you got folk. You got a little bit of everything. So there's a little something for everyone, and it was all good. That's the other thing, too. It's not too many people I can think of that had the career like he did, where you can take every album and pick one or two standout songs. Even Bowie had stages where you're like, yeah, I can do without that album. If I could throw one album out, I'd throw that one out.
Right.
That late 80s, early 90s era. But Tom Petty, all the way through, it was pretty strong.
I think Tom Petty has definitely affected me as, a songwriter, especially for Family Tree, because I was obsessed with that documentary, and then it just kind of took you album by album into his career, and just how versatile he was as an artist really spoke to me, and really kind of made me start to think about what I want to do, the longevity of Andorra. So I definitely owe it to him for thinking like that.
And the Refugees really was almost like a Philly all-star band, because you were pulling people from a lot of the other local bands, which I thought was interesting. If you could assemble an all-star Philly band from your favorite Philly bands, who would you put in that band?
I mean, just be our friends.
I mean, it's one thing to be a good musician, but it's also important to be good people and have a band that you want to hang out with and enjoy making music with. So you can have the best musicians on stage, but if there's not a vibe between all of you, then
very true.
It's not nearly as fun.
I mean, so the Refugees kind of evolved into this thing called the Booze Hounds that we're doing.
I was going to ask you about that.
And it's not a set lineup. It changes every night. And we had a gig last night, and our buddy Ramon sat in with us. Our buddy Tommy sat in with us, and Dante's older brother Mark sat in with us. So it changes, and that's not really the answer to the question you asked, but that's the best thing that I can really.
Well, you're not limiting it. You're constantly adding more people to that group.
And it's just an excuse to play out, an excuse to play with our buddies, and if I had to think of an all-star lineup, I probably already put it together with the Refugees or with
what about
the Booze Hounds.
What about the I guess to make it a little bit easier, hopefully, what about the signed Philly bands, if you know what I mean? I guess between Hooters and the Roots and Cinderella and all those guys.
Interesting.
That's interesting. I don't know if I could do that.
I mean, I guess we can count South Jersey and Lansdale too for Wonder Years if you want to do that.
I don't know if I could do that. That's tough.
Because
that's tough. Because I'm going back years. You're going all the way back to the early '80s with the Hooters. I don't know if I could.
It'd probably be Boyz II Men with the Will Smith feature.
Ooh.
And Kevin Hart's the hype man.
But it's funny. Boyz II Men. Here you go. They were all University of Arts. Were they? I think.
I actually can't. I don't
think
know
they
for
were,
sure. Okay.
but they literally just went backstage at a Belle Biv DeVoe concert and said, "Hey, check us out," and they believed in them. It's to me, that's the ultimate making it story.
Yeah.
You're just that talented, just on your own voice that you can perform like that impromptu and have them go, "Okay, we'll sign you."
Yeah, that's strong.
That's it. And then they broke Elvis's record for top #1 Billboard song. I can't remember, 17 weeks straight or something like that.
That's. I mean, I'm not really familiar with Boyz II Men except for the name, but that's bewildering that you can break Elvis's record.
Yeah,
and it's two different styles of music, if from what I understand, right?
Yeah, and stood for decades, to go. But that was pretty interesting, and it was Philly, So, could you pick a favorite local Philly band? If you had to,
Arch
I know
Valentine.
that's tough.
Yeah,
Arch Valentine.
Man, he's doing something completely different
That's
than
why it's so
anything
good.
else
That's why it's so
I've
good.
seen. I don't even know how to explain it.
he just does his thing.
Yeah.
and it's great.
Yeah, and I've never seen anyone not love it.
I know. It's nuts.
I don't even know how to
Yeah.
explain it.
Yeah.
And it's
a
you're-
futuristic funk kind of Philly sound, I think, and we've tried to put it in words, but it just speaks for itself. It's funky, it's hip hop, it's everything.
But it's avant-garde at the same time.
Absolutely.
Too. It's
Yeah.
very out there.
Absolutely.
You could easily, the first time you hear it or see it, go, what? And then, but as you experience it, it wins you. Like, it only takes like 2 or 3 songs, and you're like, all right, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
I'm in. Have
do
you
a little dance, right?
Have you seen him?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been with you guys a few times at your gigs, and he's very entertaining. Very entertaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, was he at the Nightlife album premiere?
Yes,
He
was.
played that show?
Yes.
Okay.
He also sometimes sits in with us, and for our album release, we invited a bunch of guests up on stage and kind of tried to have a big blowout end portion of our set, and he sang Under Pressure with us.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
it-
I wish I would have saw that.
Yeah.
That was
That's-
fun.
It was fun.
That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
That I wish I would have saw. So, Kevin, this is geared specifically towards you because you're outside of Andorra, you're really active in the Philly music scene. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you do behind the scenes other than Andorra?
Yeah. So I kind of talk about it like this because, I mean, it starts out with like some of the work that I do.
Yeah.
When I was fresh out of University of the Arts, I was just kind of looking for a job, and I was going to the Grape Room a lot because I was just kind of throwing shows together that Andorra wasn't even playing, and the owner there, Scooter, he's a great guy. He's awesome. He asked me to kind of do that full time. So that's how I met Jamie. That's how I met Bruce. That's how I met Palantine. That's a lot of the friends that I've met in the past year. I kind of chalk it up to the Grape Room because I met all of those people there.
And I think it's interesting, like if you are going through local bands' Instagram accounts, you're in a lot of those pictures, which I find interesting. It's, they can be in the studio and there you are in the background. Like here's a daddy lap, Instagram story,
Right.
and there's Kevin sitting in the back. So
Kevin gets around.
yeah, you do get around. But to me, that speaks volumes about who you are and what the people in this scene think of you and what you do. That's why I was curious if you could just, you've met these people through these things. Are you booking? Are you helping produce? Are you managing?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I also did as an internship while in college and then out of college was a lot of management type roles. So there's a few bands that I manage. Arch Palantine was one of them. Awesome. I do some booking work for Jamie and the Guarded Heart. I work with the band Primitives.
Oh, awesome, man!
A couple different bands here and there. But yeah, you kind of call it a scene, and then I call it my friends. So like, it's sort of, I don't think I'm building anything, and maybe it's different from your perspective, but like for me, it's just me hanging out with my friends that play in Manioc, that play in Center City. So,
Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong. It definitely seems like a scene.
Oh, absolutely. I notice there's a huge. I always get stumbled on the camaraderie between all of you guys.
Yeah.
Whether it's like maybe the same lineup every month, or you guys do your cover gigs with each other, or whatever. It's even going to see you guys a lot and seeing the other bands a lot. It's like I discover these new bands and these new people, and like.
And if I am ever building a show, I'm usually thinking of like you guys as like I don't think they've been exposed to this band, so like let's do a bill with them, and maybe they'll be on the F Money show next month.
And
so.
I was going to say, I think you've kind of picked up on that, because a lot of the bands I do New Artist Spotlight with are bands that I've seen because of one of your shows.
Yeah.
Whether Andorra played or you were involved in it.
Yeah.
So you're definitely like steering, like it's
steering your show.
Yeah. Basically, it's to my taste. The bands that you like and you promote tend to be the same type of band that I like.
Right. Well, and I appreciate that. But if you hooked up with like some of the Fishtown guys, they would say the same thing. Like my buddy Jimmy Scantron, who did the album artwork for us. He sits in with the Ali Awan guys and that band, and then they play with the Dawn Drapes and they play with Deadfellow. So like, it's the same thing, just like the next town over. And for us, it's like a little bit of Manayunk, it's a little bit of Center City, it's a little bit of Fishtown. We get in the cusp of that too, but
it's definitely, like, I look at it this way, and this is on a much different scale. But you look at, say, early Saturday Night Live, like those guys may have been on that show together and broke it together, but they had all been hanging around together for probably 10 years doing Godspell up in Canada or National Lampoon Radio Show, all these things that were just kind of those scenes of them having fun and hanging out that eventually they all kind of made it together.
Yeah.
At different times, too. Christopher Guest maybe didn't make it when Belushi made it, but eventually he made it, So and that's the way I kind of see it. Like, eventually someone's going to break, or you're all going to break. And it's definitely a town, but it meshes, like, and it's all connected somehow. Like, Fishtown may be a different scene, but there's still crossover.
Oh, totally. And Philly's just a small town. It's like 1 degree of separation from one another. So
one of the things that gets me too is when you see a Philly band that there was a Paste magazine article. It was 10 Philly bands that are on the rise, local bands that you need to know. I didn't know any of them.
Yeah, I wasn't on it.
But it was like Kississippi and Palms, and then Palms opens for the Pixies, and I'm like, well, how does that happen? Like, I've never heard of them before, So there's, and I mentioned to Jamie, you go into the grape room, the restroom, and there's a million band stickers, and I don't know any of the bands.
Yeah, I know all those bands.
You put them there, right?
I might have booked most of them.
You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something about the whole camaraderie thing. I guess while we're still on that topic, is that, and you were saying how you book bands that keep a lot of us in mind. I noticed too, it's like sometimes you have us going out somewhere, God knows where, like this new venue that I'll use air quotes, venue that I'm not aware of. Like, it's just amazing that we're like, you just discover new places to go to drink and new places to go see a show.
Right. Meet new people, meet new friends.
And
it's what it's all about.
And I think that's a necessity though of it sometimes too. I mean, you can't, if you only ever play one place, you're assuming that everyone's going to come see you, but sometimes you have to go to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like sometimes I'll look on the map, I'll go, where the hell is this place? I'm looking at Google Maps, I'm like, oh, this is right down the street from this place, or this is like around the corner from this place.
When I Google Mapped Fran's house, I was like, where the fuck is this place?
Anthony said the same thing. He goes, dude, you're like out in farm country. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Behind the turnpike.
Yeah, I know. Nestled behind the New Jersey Turnpike. So you had a question, Anthony, about the album artwork. I think you mentioned it.
So you mentioned one of your good buddies just did it. Like, what's the album artwork process from you did like the Four Corners EP to et cetera to like now? Like, where does that influence come from? Because it looks all hand drawn pretty much.
So it depends on the project. Sometimes it comes out of necessity. Like the Four Corners one, I think we threw together last minute because we needed to have some sort of artwork for it.
I had to start somewhere.
In between the lines part of that. Jimmy Scantron is a friend of Kevin's that he showed us, and we just really liked his art style, and it's something very different for us. And so we liked a couple of different examples of his art, and then we had a couple different concepts we sent to him and said, thinking about something related to the title family tree.
Right.
Got some drafts back, and we were really happy with what we got back.
Now, is this someone that's an artist by trade, or just someone that's an artist?
I work with James at Mole Street, and like I volunteered. They have a festival every year, so it's a super cool thing where I met a couple of these artists that I talked about. But he used to play guitar in Loca Connie, and he has since kind of retired from the band, and locally he plays in this band called Scantron. He's a great musician
all around.
And so on the side he does like just graphic design stuff. So
has since we did the last podcast, has the Philly scene changed to you? Does it still feel the same, or because obviously bands leave, bands come in, and I'm sure it's ever changing, but is it a noticeable change to you, or do you think it's more an evolution?
I mean, I think for me, I've met more people from like that time gap. So, like, Tyler and the Tisbury guys, like I've met them in that gap, and like we're all buddies, and I think it's constantly growing, and the more you gig, the more you go out, the more of a chance there is to meet people, then the more you become friends, and there's that camaraderie again. So
awesome. How because you guys have been a band since you were very young, how has Andorra changed? Like, does Andorra mean something different to you now than it did, say, when you were playing like the birthday bash?
Sam was in the band then.
Yeah. Oh man. I think it was around that time when Dante joined that Andorra kind of became what it is now.
Okay.
Where it's this tight-knit group of the four of us. Before then, I don't know how I could describe Andorra before, but I don't know. I see Andorra as it's Kevin, Jordan, Michael, and Dante. It's our thing together. And what was really fun about making this new album is I feel like it was an album that highlights all four of us, and it's very much an album by us, which is a really good feeling to look back on.
I agree. I think it highlights all your talents, and it you can see where each of you brought something to the table, and
Definitely.
I like that diversity of it. I definitely do. Have you started to write new music since then already?
Kind of laying the groundwork for it. Yeah.
All right. So is it continuing in that fashion? Like, to me, like I was saying, you can definitely see a difference between what you wanted, what you got, and Family Tree. Do you think the songwriting is continuing in that same direction?
Yeah. So like, one thing I did want to bring up is like, lyrics. I feel like, despite us being like a hard rock band, we are lyrical driven, and for me, there was more songs on this record that were like less self-reflective than, I'm writing about like Roy Halladay. That's kind of what Made of Gold is about. So, this time in my life, I'm like really happy with what I'm doing, and I'm living with my girlfriend, and like all of these things. Just there's no issues right now, really. So like.
Life does that. It makes it.
Yeah, I mean, and then the next record, I might be pissed off. Like it's kind of like
write an Alanis Morissette
right.
record.
So like,
off.
I don't think I'm writing a breakup album anytime soon. But like, I think compared to the angstier stuff that we've released prior to this, we were obviously younger and angstier. So like, we kind of mellowed out a little bit.
No, I'm still pretty angsty.
Oh, I mean, like for me,
get off my lawn.
That's where we're at. Like this is the happy Kanye album, and then the next will be like angry Kanye.
But
So
and a lot of artists have said that. Like I think even Eminem has said, when your first album is based on being poor and beat up, and then you're rich and respect it.
Oh,
because it's kind of
we're
hard.
Not either one of those things, but
no, but he's like it's kind of hard to put out that same, kind of hard to put out that same album.
Right.
If that's what your success is built on. So I like the fact that
it just and like if I think of the song Teeth lyrically, that song's one of the few reflective songs that I have about myself personally, and that song is just kind of about a place and time, and that was very much like if I think of What You Wanted, What You Got, it was this like coming of age theme that we were living independently from our parents for the first time, and we were kind of figuring our way out. And now this is like not the sequel per se, but like now this is like the content that we're dealing with all of that happened in that gap. So, we're grown ass men now.
And I think stylistically, there's a lot that went into Family Tree that was kind of counter to what we did with What You Wanted, What You Got, where when it came to the process of making this album, we looked at things we did with the last album and thought, okay, what didn't we like? What could we do better? What can we grow from? And so I think with each project, we're just learning new things, trying to change something, grow, and kind of keep evolving.
What have we not done yet was kind of like my thought process to everything that we did with Family Tree. Like, even if it was the smallest thing of like I fell into the habit of repeating lyrics, I guess for emphasis, but for this record, I was totally against that. I wanted to do, I wanted every line to be fresh. I wanted everything to be like something that I haven't done before. So like those little things,
those challenges
help challenge me and to write a better line or a better version of what I'm trying to get across.
Had you had a chance to play the whole album live? Have you played everything?
Almost all of it. We didn't play Little Hands live, but we played everything else live.
All right. Is it taking on a different element live? Like if these were written more and then produced first. Like did you play them live before you went to the studio?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay, all right. So they had already taken on that life.
Yeah. We didn't get to sit on them for as long as like What You Wanted, What You Got, but there was definitely like Sandpoint and Passenger we've been playing for that time frame.
Is there a reason you only wanted to do 8 songs? Because it is a short. What's the album? 28 minutes.
I think it's just over 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay.
People's attention spans.
Okay.
I mean, we're living in a streaming age where it's really easy to listen to one song on a playlist and then move on.
Yeah.
So, and we also wanted to avoid filler songs because there are some songs with What You Wanted that we like more than others, to put it nicely. And so we wanted to just have 8 or 9 songs that we were really proud of and really happy with, which is also part of that whole diversity thing where it's every song is different because we didn't want to do the same thing twice on the record.
Which is that stood out to me. I love the diversity of this album. I've listened to it a lot actually. So
it's great.
Fran,
Thank you.
Keep saying nice things about us. We're just gonna have to beat you up.
He has to.
I don't have to. That's the beautiful thing.
He has to. You're in his house.
Doesn't Ryan have the button though?
It would be different if I were in your house. I would have to say nice.
Right.
You're in my house. I can say whatever I want.
Doesn't Ryan have the control switch on you?
Not the podcast. No.
Fired again.
The podcast is produced independently. It's part of the I-99 podcast network. Yeah. So what's next for Andorra?
Not doing a full length album. I think we've kind of jokingly mentioned doing an EP next.
Okay.
Because it's funny, we made the point after we finished the album. I remember we released the album and then had a rehearsal for the release show the next day. And we're like, well, guys, this is our 3rd album. Who makes 3 full-length albums?
Locally.
Yeah, exactly.
At your age
bands
too.
all the time,
At your
but-
age too.
Yeah. So something maybe a bit smaller would be fun, or maybe something that's maybe a bit more specific to a certain idea or concept would be interesting.
I've always had this thought. I've tweeted it about to you guys before and a bunch of other bands as well. Maybe do a big compilation CD or record of just classic rock cover songs, since a lot of you have derived from that classic rock era. And I see it with Jamie the God at Heart, and everyone's like their love for the Cars and Petty and the Beatles and Chris Cornell in general.
Sure.
I mean, going outside of classic rock, but have you ever thought about, I guess, something like that, maybe just a project with almost all your friends and just put it on one thing?
I guess that's what the cover band kind of is our opportunity to play that stuff.
Right.
I thought about doing just an interesting project to maybe throw in the hat is doing cover song, like Philly covers Philly, on
Right.
a local level. So
I
like
would-
we would cover our friends' songs and pick a few very obscure songs. Something New by the Vitals was something that I was thinking about.
Oh,
That's a
man.
great song.
I would love
You know,
that.
Like put your own twist to it instead of
Yeah.
instead of driving heavy guitar, maybe a driving heavy acoustic guitar.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, can we make that happen? Because I'd love that.
Well, the really cool thing about doing the self-produced thing is that we have the budget for recording an album, which is free. So we can make another one sooner rather than later. And I mean, we started recording this album this year.
Really?
We started it
Wow.
in January, and it's out. So that's
amazing.
Something else that I think we're really proud of too is that we created a time frame and we did it.
And it's very nicely produced.
Thank you.
It's very nicely produced.
Good job.
What is your feeling on current? We've been talking about influences, which none of them are really current. What's your feeling on current radio music right now? Does it speak to you at all?
It depends on what you're listening to. I think we're both fans of non-commercial AAA. XPN is probably our
Yeah.
favorite radio station.
Mine as well.
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to find modern rock music that I dig. It's a lot of indie rock, and to me, it just it doesn't have the balls of David Bowie or
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something lacking in that for me, and it's I don't know. It's a little crybaby for me. So I just need something that might push it a little bit more, and bands like Deep Mob Happy, anything Queens of the Stone Age based. I can go on.
I feel you
but,
really have to.
I don't
I-
know. It's
I-
hard to find those bands.
I was going to say, in order to find what I like to hear, I have to do a lot of searching. When I was younger, maybe you're going to record stores and searching through crates, but I probably spend 3 to 4 hours a week going through new music playlists, just trying to find new music
Yeah.
that I like. And the stuff I choose to play on the radio show, you're not really hearing anywhere else. And I'm happy that I can find some of this stuff and introduce people to it.
Yeah.
Because it's out there and it exists and it's good. And what drives me crazy is that it's good and no one hears it.
Yeah.
And I do like how you do completely left turns. I caught the tail end of the show this week, where you're doing spotlighting Judah and the Lion. Well, you were doing Judah and the Lion with alternative roots and going 50 Cent,
Well,
this,
yeah,
which I
it's-
think is pretty cool. It's different.
Behind every band you love, there's at least 5 influences that you should know, that got them to who they are today. So
50 Cent influenced Judah. and
yeah,
Lion.
Judah Akers used to listen to Get Rich or Die,
Nice.
Die Trying
Nice.
in the
That's cool.
tour van and rap along to it.
Nice.
And
Well, they have a hip hop thing going on.
They do
too.
have a little bit of a hip hop thing, and the one of them was listening to Ben Folds, and the other one was listening to 50 Cent. So it was, and you
You're
get
Ben
that-
Folds. I'm 50 Cent.
I was about to say, as far as current influences go, whenever someone asks the band what kind of music we're into, Dante will say his favorite bands, Kevin says his favorite bands, I say mine, and people kind of give me weird faces because I have the
You have, the indie
most
hipster kind of stuff.
Yeah, the weirder side of things, or
Alright.
the less.
Come on, hit us with
Heavy.
a couple.
So I'm really into the new J-Som album. That's I think
don't
it's
know
called
that.
Anako.
Okay.
Playing a lot on XPN that I've been liking. The new Alex G album I've been
Okay.
really into too. And last night I was at a acapella vocal sextet concert with a percussion ensemble. So
Nice.
I'm into a lot of different types of things outside of just rock music.
And I appreciate that. Actually, the last couple concerts I was at Pink Martini, which I don't know if you know them, but it's
No.
like an 11-piece band out of Seattle that does big band standards.
That's awesome.
I saw Santana and Doobie Brothers.
I was there, and that
was
just Doobie Brothers alone. That show was great, and
Doobie Brothers stole the show. They really did.
absolutely.
Santana headline.
Santana headlined, and he's always Santana on guitar. He has his son and his wife
His
on
son?
drums.
Nice.
He has a great ensemble cast, but the Doobie Brothers still, for the core of the band to be together and playing that well, I think they kind of blew everyone away.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of tough for Santana to come out after
Nice.
that.
you know though, I just feel like we're always circling back to classic rock. I mean, we have a few times in this conversation, but there's so much great classic rock music out there that you kind of have to trace the roots back to first before
Right.
you really get modern.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just educate myself as much as possible on anything. I don't know. So while everybody's sort of talking about modern music, I feel like I'm going backwards, and I'm listening to Foghat and all this crazy stuff. But it's what I'm into, and it helps educate me.
It's an education. Yeah. It really is an education, and then you take it one step further. What influenced them? Then you're listening to blues. You can trace it back to the Rolling Stones, and you're like, all right,
and
so what were they listening to?
I've been to Memphis twice in the past 2 years, so
awesome.
Blues is I'm totally hip to blues. So,
and I've always wondered too. It's granted, the movie, I haven't seen the movie yesterday, but they, I guess, tackle that subject. It's like, what happens if you take out this certain band from history? It's like, would we have Green Day? Would we have the Dead Kennedys, or would we have Matt and Kim even if it wasn't for this band? I mean,
I don't know that you would. Everything that's out there has been done before, just in a different way, and it influences you to look at it maybe a little different way and to try it.
Right.
I think you take some of these big bands away. To be honest, I was never really a huge Rolling Stone fan. I never really got it, and someone pulled me aside one day and went, "Listen,
shut the fuck up about not liking the Rolling Stones."
Basically, he was like, "Shut the fuck up," and he goes, "Listen," he goes, "Go pick up Exile on Main Street, and before you listen to it, just think, without this album, your precious Ryan Adams, Elliott Smith, none of these guys exist without this album. Yeah. So stop really, think about it. Yeah. Think about all these bands that you love, and now listen to this album." And you take that perspective into it, and you're like, holy shit, I get it now. Yeah. And then I delved into it, and you get it, and then you keep going.
Right.
And I love that part of the music discovery. Yeah. But it's like craft beer for me. When you like a craft beer, do you go back and keep drinking the same beer and over and over? You may buy it occasionally, but you keep seeing what else you can. Yeah. What else? There's so many out there. I want to try them all. What else?
Yeah. It's a big world out there.
All right, so we're getting close to the end. Promote yourself. What do you got coming up?
We are playing Milk Boy November 30th with our pals Jamie and the Guarded Heart and Vital Stats.
That's going to be an awesome show. And Milk Boy is a great venue too. Have you played Milk Boy before?
Yes, yeah,
plenty of times.
Okay, that's a great lineup, great venue.
Yeah,
Anthony, you going?
I might as well. Might as well.
I don't think
I do like Milk Boy a lot. It's a different type of venue. It's fun. I like how the small aspect of it. I mean, I think my first time really upstairs at Milk Boy was Live at the Dive thing.
Oh, okay.
But just want to put that out there.
Actually, my first time there, I saw Cheerleader.
Nice.
It's another Philly band. Yes. So
I didn't realize how small the room really was. It's just not much bigger than, I guess, Barbary or.
It's an intimate. It's long.
It's definitely nicer than the Barbary.
It's nicer.
The Barbary, but
it's longer. It's a little smaller than Fountain. We can get in. That's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, it probably looks small because you saw them when the Struts played, but
yes,
when Andorra plays, it might be even smaller.
I can have
I like that it's a long room and there's a bar in the back and there's definitely some room to if you want to be right in front of the stage, you get an intimate show. If you want to hang back a little bit,
and there's food too. So
yeah, you could definitely do that.
It's food.
All right, I think that wraps it up. We're trying to keep it at a listenable. Trying not to ramble on for too long. So. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Please pick up new music by Andorra anywhere you buy music. You can also stream them on Apple Music or Spotify. Thanks to everyone for listening to the F Money Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Fran_Chismar and on Facebook at the F Money Show. Our hiatus is over and the show is back on. So it's a new day and time. We're on Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on i99radio.com. You can also listen to or follow the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or you can even just ask Alexa to play the F Money Show with Fran Chismar. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can listen to us. There's even an Alexa skill to add us to your daily briefing, so you can listen to it every day. Coming up next episode, we have Bruce McKnight from the band Nightlife, and the guest co-host will be...
I'll probably join you on that one.
Kevin McCall from Andorra. So before we end this, how about listening to something new from the new album? You like that? You want to do it? Okay, let's do that. Let's play something new from the album. Thanks for tuning in. I am Fran Chismar, and we will see you when the needle drops.